I'm excited to introduce the totally overhauled game book tool from a book creator. This update brings a range of customization options you're going to love. With this tool, you can create a variety of classic games, including Four in a Row, Dots and Boxes, Hangman, Tic-Tac-Toe, and Sim games. You can customize the title, changing the text, font size, and color for each game type. You can also set the title start location, space between the title and puzzle, as well as the vertical spacing and horizontal spacing between the games on each page. Each game also has additional customization options. First, let's look at the dots and boxes game customization options. You can choose between 1, 2, 4, or 6 dots and boxes games per page. You can also customize the dots, setting the dot size and the space between the dots and the dot color. For the Four in a Row game, you can choose between 1, 2, 4, or 6 games per page. You can also choose to have your games just include rectangles or to include circles. You can set the size and the color of the circles, rectangles, and lines, as well as the background color. For Hangman, you can choose between 1, 2, or 4 games per page. You can select the line size, color, and whether or not to have rounded lines for the Hangman graphic. You also have the option to include a person with a Hangman graphic. If you want to create Hangman games in other languages, you have the option to customize the letters in the alphabet. You can also choose to display the alphabet in either 2, 3, 4, or 5 rows. For the sim game, you can choose between 1, 2, 4, 6, or 9 games per page. You can select the line size and color. The option to have the lines be dotted is also available. In addition, you can set the size and color for the dots. For tic-tac-toe, you can choose between 1, 2, 4, 6, or 9 games per page. For this game, you can select the line size and color. Let's head over to a book creator and I'll demonstrate this new tool.
To get to the Gamebook tool, you can go under Activity Books, Gamebook tool, or scroll down and click on the icon. As with our other tools, you want to start by setting your trim size. We have all the same options available for this tool that we have in all of the others. We have the standard KDP trim sizes. You can use a custom size, or you can create an interactive PDF for the Kindle Scribe or other tablets that have pins. I'm going to stick with 8.5 by 11 for this demo. Then you need to go under Puzzle Settings and pick which one of the games you want to include in your PDF. You have the option to include Dots and Boxes, Four in a Row, Hangman, Sim Game, or Tic-Tac-Toe. Each time you click one of these boxes, and then you'll get the settings here that you can set for each game individually. So let's just start off by adding every single one. And you see every time I clicked it, I got another option here. You can also set how many times you want to repeat the games. Let's just leave that at 10 for now for this example. And you can choose between alternate games or not to alternate the games, and I'll show you what that means. But first, let's do a refresh. So we have Dots and Boxes, Four in a Row, Hangman, Sim Game, and Tic-Tac-Toe. If we hit download, since we chose to alternate the games, you're going to have the Dots and Boxes, Four in a Row, Hangman, Sim Game, Tic-Tac-Toe, and then it's going to repeat, and it's going to repeat it 10 times. Now, if we don't have this clicked, now we have Dots and Boxes repeated 10 times, and then Four in a Row repeated 10 times, Hangman repeated 10 times, and so on. So if you don't alternate it, you get each one of the games that you selected, the number of times you said repeat in a row, and then you'll have the next game and the next game and the next game. Versus if you select to alternate it, you'll have one game, the next game, the next game, the next game, and that'll be repeated however many times you said to repeat it here. Now let's look at some of the settings for each one of these tools. So let's start with dots and boxes. And you can select what you want for the title. Just click in this box and change it to whatever you want. If you want to do a game book in a different language, this allows you to do that. You can change your titles to anything that you want. You can also set the font for this title to anything you want, anything that you've uploaded into your account fonts you will have available here. You can set the font size, so maybe we want it to be bigger. You can set where you want your title to start, as well as the space between the title and the puzzle. So now that we've increased that, you can see how that changes the placement of your title and your puzzle. You can also change the color of both the title and the dots. So maybe you want gray dots. And that's what that would look like. You can increase your dot size, and you can also increase the space between the dots. So these options let you completely customize how you want your dots and boxes puzzles to look. You also can have 1, 2, 4, 6, or 9 puzzles per page. And for each one of these, you can set your settings. Let's put this back so it's closer together. And then you have the option to say how far apart you want your puzzles, both vertically and horizontally. So if we change these numbers, then these puzzles are farther apart horizontally, and we can also make them further apart vertically. And that works for every single one of the different types of puzzles, and no matter how many you have per page. Now let's move on to the 4 in a row settings. Let's just go ahead and unclick that so we get this one first. Again, you can set the title to whatever you want. Say, get 4 in a row, for example, if you wanted. Change the title font, the font size. And again, you can set the starting point and the space between the title and the puzzles. So maybe we want to make that a little bit bigger. And then you get to the puzzle itself. Now, you have lots of options for how you want this to look. First of all, you can have rounded rectangles or not have rounded rectangles, and that's how that would look. You can choose to only have rectangles and no circles, and that's how that looks. And you can change this background fill color. So if we were just going to do this, you'd probably want to use a white color for the background. And if you could have rounded rectangles here as well. It's your choice. And then when you add the circles, you can have the background color be whatever you want again. And you can choose to stroke your circles so it makes this a little bit darker. And you can also fill your circles with a color if you wanted. Just going to go back to white. And you also have control over the size of the circle. So you can scale your circles down if you wanted to get smaller circles, or you can scale them all the way back up to 1. And then if you just want circles, all you have to do is set your rectangle color to white, the fill color to white, and now you just have circles. So there's lots of options, so you can make your 4 in a row puzzles look however you want them to. And you can choose to have 1, 2, 4, or 6 puzzles per page. Just like with the dots and boxes puzzles, you can set the space between your puzzles both horizontally and vertically. So if we want that much space, maybe we want a little bit more space there. So you can set up your page to look exactly the way you want it. Now let's go look at the Hangman settings. Let's turn this one off. And just like with the others, you can set your title, you can set the space between the title and the puzzle, you can set where your title starts. You can also set the space between your title and the cross off incorrect guesses. But first, let's talk about the Hangman graphic. You have lots of options about how your Hangman graphic is going to look. You could, for example, increase the line size and have a fatter line. You can have not rounded lines, and then it's more straight. You can determine the size of this. Right now we're doing it as 50, but if you wanted to have a bigger spot here for the blanks for the words, you could reduce that. And if you did that, you'd want to make your line size be smaller. You can also set the distance between Hangman and the cross off incorrect guesses, and that's this number here. So we can reduce that, start that up higher. Let's go ahead and move this back to 50. And let's move this back down. There we go. And of course you can set the color for both the title, the graphic. Maybe you wanted it to be a gray. It would look something like that. And you can also add a person. And set the dots color for that as well. So we want the person to be a little bit lighter. Or you can have the person be darker. However you want. You can control how the dotted person looks by changing the width of the lines. So you can make the lines longer, and you can specify the length of the lines. And you can also specify the space between the lines. So you can play with that and get it to however you want it to look. You can also set the space between the Hangman graphic here and your cross off incorrect guesses stuff. And that is controlled under space between Hangman and letters. So right now it's 0.4. If we change it to 1, it's going to move it over. So if you're doing a person, you're probably going to want to move it over so you have more space. You could also tell it how many rows you want for the letters. So you can do it as 2, 3, 4, or 5 different rows. So that's 2. This is what it looks like with 3. You can do 4. And you can do 5. You can also choose to customize the alphabet. So if you are trying to create puzzles in different languages, you want to put your alphabet in here, put each letter on a separate line, and then those letters will show up here instead of the English alphabet. And of course, you can change the text for everything on the page. You can change your cross off incorrect guesses. Right here, you can change that to whatever you want. And change the font and the font size and the color for both the letters and the cross-off text. And also can change this text to whatever you want, as well as the font size, and all of the different colors. So I've added Spanish letters and text just to show you an example of how it would look if you did a different language. And this is what you get. So any letters that you put into here, 1 letter per line, is going to show up here. So it makes it really simple for you to create pen and paper games in different languages. And if you want to change any of the colors, you can change the rectangle color, which is the outline here. So if you do not want a rectangle, just set that to white. And then it will look like that. And you can set the color for all of the text on the page. If you want to do printables that are in colors that match your brand, you can do that. And with this game, you can have 1 per page, 2 per page, or 4 per page. So when you're doing that, you're going to need to make your text smaller. So let's make all of our text smaller. Let's do fewer rows. Let's decrease the size for all of the text. And then it would look like this. So you can adjust all of your settings to get your page to look just exactly the way that you want it to. Now let's look at the sim settings. Let's take off the Hangman. Now for the sim settings, you can of course change the title, change the font, you can change the font size, you can change where it starts, you can change the space between the title and the puzzle, so you can customize how all of that looks. You can also change the size of your lines. So if we made them bigger, like that, and the size of your circles, as well as the option to make your lines dotted. You also have the option to have the point, instead of being up and down, be back and forth. So you have all these different options, so you can make it look just exactly the way you want them to look. And you can do 1, 2, 4, 6, or 9 puzzles per page. And you can control the space between the puzzles horizontally and vertically. So let's make it bigger vertically. And the space between the title and the puzzle. You can increase that. So you can play with those and get it to look exactly the way you want it to look. You can even customize the dots in the line to make them smaller and further apart, to get your game page to look exactly how you want it to look. Now let's look at the tic-tac-toe game. And just like all the others, you can set the title to whatever you want. You can set where the title starts, the space between the title and the game. So in this instance, we would probably want to start lower and have there be more space. Probably a lot more. And for the puzzle itself, you can set the line size, so you can have a smaller line if you would like. You can set your line color, change that however you want. And you can have 1, 2, 4, 6, or 9 puzzles per page, and adjust the distance between your puzzles horizontally and vertically. And you can play with those until you get it exactly the way you would like it. This tool also has the standard front and back matter pages if you want to add front and back matter to your PDF, and it also has the save and load settings option, so you can save the settings and reload them anytime you want, just like our other puzzle tools.
These games are perfect additions to your activity books, offering interactive and fun content for your readers. Pen and paper games are a fantastic way to diversify your book offerings and keep your audience engaged. If you have any questions about this tool or suggestions for making it better, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Your journey to crafting journals, planners, logbooks, and more starts here. Get going now with a free 3-day trial at abookcreator.com.